Hello, hello. We're live. Caught Richard off guard.
Caught me off guard. Hello, and welcome back for another Ramblestream, episode 77 this evening. It's another springish day.
It's supposed to snow tomorrow, Richard.
Is it really?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
You're just making that up.
I literally wish I was.
No, that's not true. It's northern Indiana.
I know, but still.
I would expect no less.
But
no.
Still.
The sun was out.
Yeah, true. It wasn't too bad today. It wasn't awful.
Yeah. We had a lot of rain, but enough of the meteorological pleasantries.
I had on a side note, I've been like deep into meteorology the last like couple weeks because of the storms coming through. It's been really fun to watch.
What does it mean to be deep into meteorology?
Oh, watching YouTube videos until you fall asleep.
Okay.
That's kind of what I mean.
Not like a Renaissance polymath, sort of like studying the deep principles.
That would be a lot. That would be a lot cooler. But no, unfortunately not.
I have that on my mind because I've been reading this book, which we're going to be talking about this evening, and we'll be talking about notebooks.
Don't spoil it.
No, there's plenty. Don't worry, I will not spoil it.
Subtext says 5x5. Let's go.
Good.
I've never in my life thought that I would be excited to see. Hey guys, sounds great. 5x5. Like that's possibly the most positive comment that you guys can put in the chat.
It's great. We really appreciate it. I appreciate Jansen figuring this stuff out.
We're doing it.
We've got more tech going on. You can't see it from right now, but we also have another camera up here.
Hold on.
Suspended over our heads.
Let me just show you guys a little sneak peek. Whoa!
There we go. So we've got all kinds.
It's just see, I got cocky.
Getting carried away.
I got cocky.
We got wires going all over the place, and we've got it's the Ramblestream is developing every week we do one. But anyway, let's get started. As you, if you're an old Ramble streamer, will know, and if you're paying attention to the fancy little ribbon going across the bottom, we like to encourage you all to make a comment, ask us questions, participate in trying to make this as much as possible a conversation. That's why we have Jansen here. He's not just a technological wizard.
I should get a name tag maybe that says
but he also helps me to have a conversation.
Yeah, and I have fun doing it.
Yeah, that's right. I have more fun when Jansen's here. Anyway, there's a formula. Just tell us where you're viewing from, what you ramble with, whether it has 1, 2, 3, 4 or more wheels. There are other. Or if it has one hull or two.
Ooh, what if it's an Argo and it has 6 wheels and a hull?
Tell us about it. I want to know. And then last but not least, tell us what you're sipping on, what libation you're indulging yourself with. I will get started. My name is Richard Worsham, founder and designer here at Janus Motorcycles. I am in Goshen, Indiana, at our fabrication shop. We're about 5 minutes south of the main headquarters in downtown Goshen, broadcasting from an old paint booth, and which is also my office. I ramble with a 2009 KLR 650 and a 2018 Janus Halcyon 250 number 68. That's right. If you ride with a Janus, tell us what the model and serial number are.
Very important.
We were just joking that, and I think we've said this before, but I'm pretty sure Gary has a little document that he copy and pastes.
He has to just keep it on lock all the time, just right next to him so that he can look at the list.
Unless he literally types that out every
single time.
Gary,
I guess you can answer the question. Do you type it out every time or do you copy and paste it? Because if you type it out every time, bravo. Bravo. That's some grit if I've ever seen it.
All right, Jansen.
My name is Jansen. I am also here in Goshen, co-hosting this Ramblestream in the spaceship that is the paint booth. I am sipping on today's energy drink choice is a Ghost Energy
Swedish fish.
And when I tell you it it tastes like they melted a Swedish fish and just put a whole bunch in there. Like that's exactly what it tastes like. It's delicious.
I neither enjoy energy drinks nor Swedish fish. So
You
that
would
sounds repulsive.
Absolutely hate this. This would possibly be the worst that you've ever drank. I am soon to be rambling on Griffin 450 number 5, unnamed TBD. Name TBD.
Wonderful.
Glad you're here. Glad to be here.
Okay. Now that we have that out of the way, let's proceed to a poem. I enjoy these when we actually have. Lately, we've been figuring out the topic that we're going to be rambling about ahead of time.
Yep.
And so it gives me a little bit of a. Well, I only picked this poem about 15 minutes ago, but
Don't tell
it
them
gives
that.
me a category to look for in a poem.
Yeah, it gives some context.
Yeah, so you try and match the poem to fit.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that I haven't done that before, but it's been kind of haphazard.
Yeah.
So
Hey, Eugene. How you doing, man? Good to see you here. It's a new name.
Who's that?
Eugene.
Nice.
On Facebook here. Gary says that he does copy and paste it. However, he changes the drink every once in a while. So that makes sense.
Very nice. It's sort of like the Ramblestream copy that I use. I have that in a little
Copy
and
paste.
And then we just change out what we're talking
It's
about.
great. It works. It's a system.
Tonight we're going to be revisiting our new friend, A.E. Stallings, living poet, and neither dead nor a male. So we're getting.
I didn't know where you were going with that. I was very confused for a split second. Both good to hear.
Anyway, this poem is called Pencil. Once you loved permanence, indelible. You'd sink your thoughts in a black well and called the error ink. And then you crossed it out. You canceled as you went, but you craved permanence and honored the intent. Perfection was a blot that could not be undone. You honored what was not, and it was legion. And you were sure, so sure, but now you cannot stay sure. You turn the point around and honor the erasure. Rubber stubs the page, the heart, a stiletto of lead, and all that was black and white is in between instead. All scratch, all sketch, all note, all tentative, all tensile, line that is not broken but pauses with the pencil. And all choice, multiple, the quiz that gives no quarter, and time the other implement that sharpens and grows shorter. That one's a good one.
That's a good one.
Very, very, you can tell, I said this before, but very Richard Wilbur.
Yes.
Very Richard Wilbur.
Who is dead and a man.
Yes, it's true.
Eugene Edwards says, I own Halcyon 250, 1,143. It is great to have you here. Do this every single Monday at 7 o'clock.
Larry H. We got another. I don't recognize that name.
Larry.
Lindsborg, Kansas. Still have several of my old 250 motocross bikes and my favorite Allstate. Nice. My maybe Boltaco 250 anyway. Wife and I are into gardening and season so busy around the property.
Good
awesome.
grief, yeah.
Good rambling pursuit.
There's nothing like the first warm spring day and going outside. This might be just a complete personal, like only me thing, but looking at your completely neglected back patio and backyard and just the disarray that it's in.
I was thinking about that this spring
everywhere.
Too. Yeah, because the snow, when the snow melts, it reveals all this detritus in your backyard.
Oh gosh, that's bad.
No, actually, I didn't even say this, but there was actually a bag of trash that it was covered under the snow, and that my dog had like gotten into, and when the snow melted, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, so I get that spring cleaning thing for sure, because I look back in my backyard and I'm just kind of sad. Drake B, hello from Indianapolis, 1982 CB900F, sipping on air because he's grocery shopping at the moment. Wow,
there we go. Ramble streaming and grocery shopping at the same time.
Ramble.
Are you working off a list?
Do you work off a list?
Oh, we might be talking about some lists tonight.
I won't spoil it.
And if so, do you use it on your phone for that list, or do you write it down in a book?
Oh, man. We've got some more comments here. We've got a question here, Richard, if you're ready.
I'm ready.
Should I expect my 250 to feel a little different once I hit 600 miles? What's up, Nolan?
Yes. The short answer is yes. The 250, probably even more than the 450, that motor, you will notice a lot of change, especially within the first, I would say, I used to say 500 miles, and now I want to say 2,000 miles, because it'll just keep getting smoother and smoother. By about the 2,000 mile mark, I would say that it's pretty settled in. It's going to continue to get smoother and better, but most of the change has happened at that point. But definitely in the first 500 miles, it's going to be a really noticeable, smoother shifting. All the little burrs and little things on the engine are going to break themselves in. The motor's breaking in, and so you should definitely notice it feeling smoother and probably getting more powerful, and faster.
Yeah, that's great. Referee says my wife gives me a list and I still screw it all up and I get all the wrong things. So my wife has found this new tactic because I am the same. No matter what list she gives me, I still get the wrong thing. So what she does is she screenshots the items on like the Walmart app or anything if she needs me to pick up something and be like, okay.
It was a photograph. So it's like an image.
Yes, it is an image of what I need to get. And she treats me like a child because I am when I go into a grocery store. She says, okay, Jansen, now this is what you need to get. Now don't come out without it. I'm going to be very upset.
I'm not even going to talk about shopping.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Kelly says, get another gadget on its way to you, Richard. Keep a lookout for it. This is
what did he get?
Another gadget.
Gadget. Ooh, interesting. Okay, you got my curiosity.
I know. Why did he tease like that? He just said a gadget. He didn't.
Great.
He didn't add any context.
That's great. That's great. Maybe it'll make it on the Ramblestream.
Maybe.
Is it a thing? That's the real question.
I would hope so. Now moving on to builds of the week here.
Okay.
First up on the list here, this is Williams Halcyon 250. It's number 1,176, and it's going to Maine. Now we're going to go through the whole rigmarole here.
Good. So we obviously have a Halcyon 250.
These are some different shots.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
courtesy of Mitch again.
Yes, these are all courtesy of Mitch. If you guys are teetering about buying a Janus motorcycle, give Mitch a call. He'll hook you up, and then you'll get pretty pictures like this when your Janus is being built.
That's true. All right, we got cream pinstripe for the primary color. This is not a frame matched bike, so this is a classic black chassis with cream primary, gold pinstripe with a matching. And this is what we originally used to call the feather or the 450 logo. Now we just call it the feather logo because it's available on the 250. So he's gone for the feather logo, which is obviously not complete here. Single pinstripe. Let's see. Keep going.
There it is.
We got some quality tags on the engine. Engine's installed. This is as you can tell, if you're not familiar, the 250 is a carbureted bike. So that's not a fake carburetor like on your Triumph Bonneville. That's a real carb.
That's the real deal.
But he's got, this is, not only does it have the 450 style logo, it has the 450 style Sargent seat, which is, if you plan on, what do I say about these? I really like the stock Halcyon 250 seat. It really aesthetically matches the lines of the 250, but you want to put some miles on that bike. You can't do better than the Sargent seat. It's Richard, really comfortable.
I really hate to interrupt you. But you know how you were just calling me a tech wizard?
Yeah.
I may or may not be scanning through the incorrect tab here. So I'm just going to put it on the correct one, and then we can do that all over again.
Why don't we just go?
We'll go back. We'll go back. This is
this
is actually another demo bike.
This is a demo bike, so this is not going to Maine.
It's Halcyon. Let's go back to the tank here. This is staying here. Let's share this tab instead.
There we go.
And now you've got it.
Okay. Well, let's just keep going.
So let's see. There's that tag.
Yep.
Sounds good though.
So you can see that's the throttle cable that hasn't been. That's the clutch cable that hasn't been installed yet. There's your seat again.
Yeah, that's that 450 Sargent seat.
Mm-hmm. Keep going. We got a book rack. So this is on the 250, the book rack is mounted to the what we call the connector tubes to the chassis. The 450, we have those available now, but we recommend the actual rack that's suspended.
The sprung, is that considered a sprung rack then?
Yeah, I mean, you could call it that. Very nice.
I love
Single
that's
pin.
such a classic.
Oh, and it's got a
color
ducktail fender.
Oh yeah.
Icon shocks.
That's all for that one. That's such a classic color combo, honestly.
Yep, that's the color of mine.
Wow.
Although it doesn't have the feather logo because we didn't have that at that point. But it's a single pinstripe gold on cream. I mean, and I have to say, the cream powder coat, it is the best wearing of all of our powder coats. If I clean up 68, which has been, it has been abused, to say the least. There's definitely missing pinstripe. And scratched, and actually the tank has been, I've ridden it so much that the aluminum is showing through on parts of the tank.
Oh,
where
nice.
My legs have rubbed on it.
And that reminds, it's like in the same category as like you see relic guitars.
Yeah.
And how like there's some
lovely.
of that paint rubbed away.
Yeah.
Like, that's
but anyway,
so
where I'm going with that is that the cream, it just conceals any scratches.
That's cool.
You polish it up, it just looks $1 million.
Right up.
Now, something like gloss black, beautiful color, looks amazing, but you really have to stay a little more on top of it.
Yeah, that's not a color for me. I'll scratch through and through for sure.
Yeah.
I see Bill in the chat. Bill, we are about to feature your motorcycle here.
There we go.
This is Halcyon number 1176. And this is the one that we were talking about. This is the one
there you go.
going to Maine. Okay, look, it's another frame.
We got a Halcyon 250.
Okay.
Black chassis. Will it be frame matched? Will it be a black bike?
That would be sharp.
So he's also gone with the Sergeant C. What you're seeing there on the front fork, go. You can go to the next slide. Yeah. That's fine. Those little brass bushings, beautiful. I was just looking at a bin of those. It's like a treasure hoard. It looks like gold,
sparkling.
Yeah. But the swing arm pivots on those, they're plain bearings, basically. Beautiful.
Whoop.
There's the VIN tag, which I don't want to focus on too much.
Skip that over that real quick.
Handlebars are installed, and we got cream.
Looky there.
Look, you could have actually just almost pretended like that.
Yeah, it was the same one.
So, Bill, good choice on color. And now this is
the Janus
number 68. My Halcyon.
It's a replica.
It looks the same. So well done. Very nice. But except he has ducktails.
Yeah.
But we didn't have ducktails when 68 was built.
Gosh,
headlight visor.
Such a classic color combo.
Mm-hmm.
Book rack too. Such a good looking motorcycle.
Well done.
All right.
Okay, now we got something a little different.
Now we're on to our next one. This is Steven's Halcyon 250 number 1173, and this is going to Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas.
So this is a frame matched, which means that all the chassis components match the primary color. This is in our Charlevoix blue, named after one of my favorite lakes up in northern Michigan,
which is named
Charlevoix.
Oh, okay.
So here you see those brass bushings we were talking about with the little Zerk fittings at the back of them. So you can grease your bushings just right off the back of the forks.
Gosh, that is so blue. It looks like the sky. What was the chain? Is the chain guard normally color matched?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think so.
Grant, are you still in here? Is it still normally color matched? If not,
what's that pinstripe color? Is that black?
Black.
Oh, black and turquoise and black.
That's a good.
Pretty good color scheme.
I didn't look through all of these pictures, so I don't know how far we get in the build process,
great.
but I really hope we got fenders on.
Ooh, silver feather logo. Very nice. Tie down eyelets. Yeah.
Gosh, that black is such a stark contrast on the blue.
And by having the black pinstripe, it ties in with all the other black components. It's really nice.
That's really
sharp.
Good grief.
Very nice.
Do we get fenders? Black.
What's he gonna go with? What's he gonna go with? A black. Okay, we got a black. This is a wide line seat.
Do we have? Do we have fender covers? What do we call those?
Skirts.
Skirts. Fender skirts.
I don't know.
Oh,
we do.
We do.
We do.
Gosh, those are so loud. I love those so much.
So go back to that last picture. This is one of my favorite parts of the fender skirts is the chain cutout. And Brent, who makes all our fenders, nailed it. The way that the chain guard cuts into the bead carries along with it.
So good.
And then it cuts around on the front of the fender, and then it actually connects through at the bottom.
So good.
Really nice.
Also love how the pinstripe goes like down and up this way.
Mm-hmm. Really nice.
So sharp.
Knobby tires.
Knobby tires. Good grief.
Beautiful. Well done, Steven.
Steven's out here crushing it. That's a great looking motorcycle. Thank you, Steven. That's
yeah, I think all the frame matched have a matching chain guard.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay. Referee Moto says, "Oh man, I spilled some gas in my tank this week. I see some discoloration. Powder coat and gas is no bueno."
That is not a good combination. By the way, you've got some awesome pictures on Instagram. Rev Free Moto, you check him out. He's actually from same neck of the woods as my family out in Piedmont, Virginia.
Piedmont.
The Piedmont. If you do, you can use a little very, very, very light buffing compound.
Yeah.
And polish your powder coat.
Yeah.
It's not automotive paint. You got to be careful.
Yeah. Do we have? Last time I checked, I can't remember. We have little leather.
Yes.
Little leather squares that
tank
you can.
bibs.
Tank
They're
bibs,
actually
they're called
leather rounds.
Okay.
Not squares.
And they've got like a hole for the.
Yeah. It fits like when you first get it. It might be a little tight over the fuel bung, but it protects your tank from spills like that.
Yeah. So is that right in your saddlebag? Or
we also have a video on how to put fuel in your Janus, which I made many years ago now. And people actually like laughed at that video when I made it like, oh, how you put gas in a bike? And I'm like, well,
there's some.
If you watch the video and you
it.
follow the instructions, you won't get gas on your bike.
You'll never get gas on your bike. It'll never happen. Need to take
a little patience.
For show, Rev said. Yeah, man, that's a lifesaver. We've got up next on our docket here. The thing.
Oh, it's things of this world.
Things of this world.
Great. Do I actually have the things? Oh, I'm holding it right in my hand. Okay.
This is truly used.
This is actually used. Yeah. So why don't we shift to our overhead camera? All right. And I'll move this so that y'all can see it. So this is we're going to talk about a notebook. So this is we're going to ramble about notebooks later, but we're going to talk about a specific notebook right now. And I brought a couple of examples of this particular notebook. There's a lot of different notebooks available today. It's kind of like become a whole industry making notebooks, and there's not only making them, but formatting them, and it's become this. It's like a whole YouTube like world of people that scrapbook and notebook and journal and diary and all these different terms. And I hope maybe today we can poke a little bit at what the difference between all those things is. But I figured the one that I've used for the longest is the Moleskine or Moleskine. I don't know how you're actually supposed to pronounce it.
You're asking the wrong person here.
Yeah. But Moleskines are, I think they were, the current brand came out in like 1999, 2000. I don't know. I don't know the exact date. I should know because I just read about it in this book. But it's a recreation of a French cahier or notebook that was popular in the mid-century.
Cool.
Famous novelists, Hemingway used Moleskine, or a similar. I think they may have been called Moleskines. I don't actually know the history that well.
What? Why? I mean, it's not just like a moleskin.
It's Moleskine.
Right?
It's got an E on the end.
Right. So I'm just thinking like back in the day, they didn't like when they killed moles. They're like, you know what would be great? We can just make a cover for a notebook.
There's a fabric called like moleskin. It was like a kind of a velvet.
Right.
But
okay.
Anyway, this is the one that I first started using, and I don't know, maybe it was a little bit of a romance to them. I think that they captured very well in their marketing.
Yeah.
There are other notebooks available, things like Field Notes, Rhodia. There's a German brand that I can't think of the name of like right now. I couldn't even pronounce anyway. Lectern.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I personally am a big fan of Field Notes just because of the size.
I have one on my shelf, but I won't grab one. Anyway, Field Notes are a great option, but I think they come in all different sizes too.
Yeah,
anyway,
I like the tiny ones.
Well, Moleskine comes in those too.
Wow. Are you trying to convert me?
No, I'm not actually. This is not an advertisement for Moleskine. But anyway, the idea behind this is that it's a simple blank page that you can fill, and this doesn't really seem revolutionary to us, I don't think, but there really weren't that many of them available that weren't formatted.
Yeah.
And so anyway, this has been really, really instrumental, I guess, over the years in how I kind of have both, or whether it's been note taking in school, which is what it started out as,
right,
or attempting at diary journaling, which I've never been good at.
It's a practice, for sure.
Or being organized.
Yeah.
This one here dates back to 2003. So this was when I was in Rome. Welcome to Rome. I brought it in because I think it's a really great example of how I think a notebook is really best used.
Yeah.
But anything from sketching, note taking, poems, poetry. There's a Richard Wilbur poem right here.
How aerodynamic an elephant is that what that drawing?
It's actually it's from The Little Prince, the book by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. It looks like a hat, until you realize that it's actually a snake that's just eating an elephant.
Gotcha. Okay.
A little bit of a. We've actually read some of The Little Prince for a poem for the poetry portion on the Ramblestream.
Nice.
Anyway, you can collect things like tickets and business cards or receipts or all kinds of random stuff. Take any kind of note. But lately, I've been using the thinner, and this one here is a hardcover version. This one is what they call their cahier version, and it's just cardboard. I don't know. I just find that it is easier for me to use and to store, and I use it for my everyday. I just call it priorities week of. Yeah, and it ranges, and I think we'll talk a little bit later on about how I use it. But wonderful tool. I prefer the dotted version. I don't know if you all can see. It doesn't have lines this one doesn't have anything, which is actually in some ways it makes me nervous. Yeah, in some ways this is the most true to form. It's a blank page, and that's I don't know. That obviously when I first started using these, that's what I wanted. But they also have this one is lined, and I don't like the lined ones. Too rigid. But the dotted one, you can kind of just go anywhere, and you can measure with it. I was about to say, I love the dotted one because you can draw to scale. Yep. And it is actually a 1-inch grid. It's perfect because I draw to scale all the time, and I've got so many uses for that. I don't really have any uses for that, but I like to have the option. Yeah. If I want to draw to scale, I can. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways, obviously, that you can use a notebook, and we're going to be talking more about them. I don't really want to steal a lot of the thunder from our ramble, but I just thought that these are things. This is a tool that, especially recently, that's actually why I got the book that we're going to be talking about a little bit tonight. Was just because I was finding that a journal, or whatever you want to call this, has been extremely helpful to me, especially in an age of we're going to get really meta. You can see the video on the video, but in the age of high tech phones and note taking. I cannot. I've tried for years to be able to use different note taking apps, and it just it doesn't work. I don't know. I think I don't type as fast as I write.
Yeah.
Certainly with my thumb.
Oh, that's interesting.
And some people say they do.
Yeah.
But there's also just something about like how permanent it is, and you can flip the page.
Yeah. I
to
love
that spot.
Oh, we're getting into ramble territory because I was about to get into ramble territory. We can pause. We'll talk about that a little later. Yeah, but I think the notebook is a great tool. It kind of pulls you back into reality a little bit of like, okay, I'm taking my ideas, and instead of going to this black box, they're going to go into something that has substance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So yeah, the Moleskine. I mean, again, I think that it really what kind of notebook you use, and here's an example. It doesn't have to be an expensive, Italian or wherever. It can also be something super simple. This is one
that thing is
that I use. Yeah, let's talk about patina, right?
Yeah, for real.
This one's actually I'm really proud of. I love this one's a beauty.
It's perfect because it's not like it's kind of falling apart, but not to the point where it's unusable.
But this is just a CVS composition book. And when I first started, this is what I call pensée, which is just French for thoughts. But it's like Blaise Pascal, the famous writer, philosopher, theologian.
Okay.
Just a really interesting guy.
Yeah.
He wrote this thing called the pensée, and it's basically the reason I liked it is it's just a series of ideas and concepts,
random thoughts,
and he just numbered them.
How crazy!
And he just went with it.
How crazy of a concept is like Marcus Aurelius is another example that there are people in this world that can or have just had ideas. They wrote them down, and then they became, I don't know, like widely known, like going even more narrow than a story, because everyone can get behind a story. Not everyone can get behind like, these are my thoughts for today, and they range from how the best way to make coffee to how many times you ate green beans in a week. Like that's crazy. Of course, it's an exaggeration, but it's just wild.
Well,
to me.
I mean, sometimes journaling can be very, very. It can be about things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I was just reading about the English mocking some of the journaling techniques that were being brought in. People didn't really do that,
right?
And they were mocking it, and really like.
Well, you're not going to remember it.
Well, no. You went to the bathroom at 2:00, and
It's like Facebook when it first came out.
Right.
Going to see a movie.
Right.
Multifarious says, I have a passport-size traveler's notebook from the Travelers Company.
Yeah.
It has a thick leather cover.
This is passport size.
Yeah. That's my favorite size, just because it's so portable. But I do lose them all the time.
Really?
On a regular basis.
Yeah, that we've already featured this little wallet, but the reason I got this wallet was because I was able to carry a notebook.
Yeah.
Because in the last, I don't know, probably over the last 3 years, but really 6 months, even just 3 months, I've really realized the power of a notebook.
Yeah.
And I've wanted to be able to keep one on me at all times.
Yeah.
And so this just goes in my back pocket. And it's harder to lose because I guess
if
I did lose it, it would lose a lot of other
some
things
of your
too.
life attached to it.
Yeah.
Richard, you do notebooks like I do. Next up, we need to address maps.
Oh, that's a great topic.
Write it down. If only I had my notebook.
Exactly, right? Let's do it.
Instead, I'm going to do it the weird new way on my computer. Yeah, that's a great idea. I think maps are kind of in that same, the same.
I have one of the things that I'm really fascinated by are maps from literature. So maps of not real places.
Okay.
And I used to collect map. We could do a.
That could be really cool.
We could do a ramble on maps of imaginary places.
That could be really cool. Let's go to the Shire. Let's see a map of the Shire. I went to New Zealand in 2017, and they had a ton of those fake maps because of Lord of the Rings being
I used
there.
to draw those. That was one of my favorite things to do.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
Kelly says, I love maps.
Well, there you go. There's our thing. Notebooks in particular. This one, for example, being a Moleskine, which is how I pronounce it.
Yeah.
There's a better way to do it.
Let us know.
Tell us how.
Send us an email. Rambling at janusmotorcycles.com. Lo-Fi says, GPS is great, but honestly, the most fun I've had on rides have been navigating with paper maps and a compass. A case compass. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I just watched, this is completely off topic a little bit. I just watched a YouTube series by someone named Ludwig, who's known for playing video games. And him and a buddy rode their motorcycles from the most southern point of Japan to the most northern point of Japan without using their map, without using any maps, without using phones,
without any
just
navigation.
went for it. Like,
well, I guess it's kind of like you kind of have bumpers on each side.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you can only go so far west or so far east. But yeah, it was a great series. There's they did it in 2 weeks, which is really cool. It's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. Maps is a great one. We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, I think
maps are
awesome
becoming harder and harder to find.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
They're becoming extinct.
They are.
Oh no. You want to read some comments?
Let's do some comments.
Yeah, I think we should read some comments.
All right.
A good one. A good one from this week is this is on Facebook. There was a gentleman who said, "What? No rear suspension?" Oh man,
that was it.
That was it. That's the comment.
There you go, folks.
I love it. I love it so much. We got another one. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Super hipped, overpriced motorcycle. I believe he meant to say hyped.
Maybe he meant hipped, like hipster. That's a really common slur.
Oh, these are just
there's hipster bikes.
It is used as a slur, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It's slung like nobody's business.
Janus
450cc bike shouldn't be any more than 5K. Just saying. Man, if you can find a 450 that looks as beautiful.
To even say that is to miss the point, though.
Yeah, a little bit.
Once again, we're equating cubic centimeters with U.S. dollars.
Yeah. Makes no sense. For some reason it does. This is like a little bit of a backhanded compliment here. I love the retro look and it looks like a lot of fun, but too expensive for a little toy. Nice to see them more reasonably priced. A lot of comments on price this week, which is
like positive or negative?
Both.
Okay.
Like, oh my gosh, I want this. I can't believe it's so cheap. And wow, this is way too expensive.
Well,
so
we've worked very hard to get them to the price they are, and we're going to be working really hard to try and keep them where they are. But with recent news, it's going to be a real challenge.
Yeah, well, this was interesting because this is also kind of along the lines of missing the point of rambling. Okay. He said, "My Beamer RT rambles better than yours."
Well, maybe it does.
For you, yeah.
I mean, an R9, or is it a RT? Is that like an R9?
I would imagine it's
RT. Actually, I'm blanking on my BMW models, but yeah, that's a. I mean, so I guess the question would be, was it worth the typing you did?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. My response was, "Hey man, this isn't a competition. Whatever gets you out riding, sure, man. I'm not here to fight with you."
We also had a video that came out. I don't know if it came out. It came out recently. Top 10 retro motorcycles, and we got a spot on the list.
Oh, nice!
And some of the comments were really cool. I really like this list, specifically number 1. Well deserved. Oh, I guess we were number 1.
Oh,
were we? I don't know. Maybe
this might be.
I haven't watched the video yet. I also appreciate. Oh no, he likes number 1. He says, "I also appreciate that you gave a little more attention to an independent American company, enough to pique my interest, particularly in that Halcyon model.
Huh.
Just gorgeous."
Nice.
And then there's some owners chimed in. Thank you all. And
number 6, Bert says we're number 6 on that list.
Number 6. Cool.
Thanks, Bert.
Hey, I mean.
That's great.
That's take it.
Awesome. That's awesome. I love seeing. I mean, because we're a very small motorcycle manufacturer.
That might be an understatement.
Very small. So it's
Or
cool
an
to see.
overstatement.
It's cool to see. It's cool to see some recognition out there in the streets. You know.
Yeah.
That's comments this week though, but I think we're ready to get kind of rambling.
Great.
I haven't done any. This is usually how I like going into these. I haven't done any thinking about note taking or journaling until just now.
Okay.
So,
All right. Well, I think we'll talk a little bit about.
I love it.
Do you? I mean, I spoiled it, and I asked him
did.
like right before we started, do you journal or note take? And he was beginning to say, and I was like, that don't tell me. So we haven't really had this conversation. Do you use a notebook? Do you work with a blank page?
I work with a blank page. I am trying to be really good at getting in the practice of writing.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's so much value in being able to get things out here and into the physical world. And this is like the path of least resistance to that. It is like the purest form of creation is journaling. So do I do it every day? No. Do I wish I did? Absolutely. Am I trying to get better? Yes.
So you said journaling.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So it's just, I use it as a time to reflect on either the day to come or the previous day, the day that happened.
So very reflective.
Yeah. Yeah. Very reflective. Just to, I have a scale out of 10 that I end each one with that says, how am I feeling spiritually? How am I feeling mentally? And how am I feeling physically? And I give myself a rating on each one of those lists every time I journal. And then when I love how after I write, I can then say, okay, based on above, how am I feeling about today? And then
so is the rating after you've written?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I can look back like days and days and days and days and days and say, oh, this was happening, and this is how I felt about it, just like at a quick little glance. So
it's kind of like, I mean, I guess that is a diary,
in a way,
or a journal. I mean, I don't honestly. I'm not going to say that I understand the difference between a journal or a diary. We can talk a little bit about how words were used, historically. But
when I think of
today, I think that they're so similar, and it's so personal how someone uses those, whether it's a log. I mean, there's a lot of what that sounds like. Even the fact that you have this rating, it sounds almost like a log in that sense, being something that just records like if a ship's log, like it's where you are, or what the conditions were.
Right. It's like, oh, it was cold today.
We made 200 miles.
And
we're at latitude
this, that. There was an iceberg on the left. We missed it. Yes.
If you're reading this, we missed it.
Yeah, exactly. If you're reading this, we made it back. No, I think whenever I think of a diary, I think of like my sisters had this plastic thing that had pages in the middle, and it would recognize your voice. So my brother and it would recognize your voice and it would unlock. This was like back in the 90s. So my brother and I would always try to mimic our sisters' voices and try to break in. And it was pretty stout. We didn't fool it, even though we probably sounded a lot like them.
Wow.
Or maybe.
Like my daughters, they can open each other's iPhones with their face.
That's crazy.
They're pretty similar looking.
That's crazy.
We'll dig into more of this. Like what makes a diary, what makes a journal, and kind of the history. But the reason that I wanted to talk about this is, well, for one, I've just been recognizing the power of writing down things. Just as simple as that.
Yeah.
It's really, especially just this. I mean, I'm not a great journal. I'm not going to make any. I've shown you some pages that are full of my chicken scratch, as I call it. But I've always been pretty all over the place with it. I've never been able to keep a schedule with it in like a rigorous manner. And I've never even tried like journaling. But just from a purely practical standpoint, I've been noticing how powerful writing things down is. And in the process, I've been working with some of my friends have also been noticing this.
Really?
And so we've just been kind of comparing notes and literally, wow, we're using all kinds of, I was just talking with our accountant today about how she's been balancing the books and closing the books and all these terms that come from notebooking.
Like actual books.
Actual books. So I ended up buying this book right here. This is called The Notebook, A History of Things on Paper. And I did actually put a link to the book under the video.
There
If
you
you're
go.
especially on YouTube. I don't know if, but the other media.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really great book. I first encountered it on YouTube. There was an interview with the guy who wrote it, Roland Allen, and I thought, wow, he was talking about Zibaldoni and ricordanza, and I thought, oh, okay, this is some cool Italian words. You got me hooked. But,
that's all you need to get Richard Hook. It's just some cool Italian words. You got him.
But anyway, it's I highly, highly recommend the book. It's fascinating, especially if you like history. And he kind of goes through the history of the Notebook. And do not consider this a gloss of the book. I'm just kind of talking about loosely based on the book, the history of the Notebook. Cool. So the oldest recorded thing we could describe as a notebook is at a shipwreck called the Ulebrun tablet. It's from this shipwreck off the coast, I think, of Turkey.
Okay.
From 1305 BC.
1305.
Yes. So 1300 years before birth of Christ. We have this tablet, and basically it's not paper, obviously.
Stone.
No, it's wood.
Wood.
It was inside a jar with like pomegranates or something, and
that's
sealed.
What preserved it.
It was sealed, yeah, and it was preserved. But it's wood, and it's a 2-piece wooden tablet that folds.
So did they know that would preserve it?
I don't know. I'm not sure they can even guess. But it was stuck in there, and so it was saved, and that's why it's the only one that they know of to this day. But anyway, what it was is it was a wooden tablet that actually had a big hinge, which is made out of like bone, ebony or maybe ivory.
Yeah.
But it folds, and each panel has a recess, which they believe held wax. And so what you would do with this book, and this is common until really all the way through up to the Middle Ages, I think people were still using a method like this, where you would write in whatever you wanted in the wax, and then when you were done, you just smoothed it out.
Huh.
So you could, for short periods of time, record things. And then the Romans were famously write it down, and then they would drill the sides, and they'd close it, and then they'd lace it closed and store it. So that was how things were permanently saved. No, not. Well, I mean, I guess it's as permanent as paper.
If it gets too hot.
Yeah, but I mean, if it gets too hot, paper is going to burn, right? So, an early method. Then, of course, we have papyrus and parchment. Those are harder to preserve.
Right.
You get looking at some comments.
I've got a question here.
Okay, go for it.
Do you ever take time to write a letter just to communicate with a friend or a relative?
Yes. Not as much as I should. Probably that's true of all of us.
Yeah.
But writing, well, I mean, that's a great time. I mean, like taking the time to write a letter to someone. My wife got me for Christmas new stationery with, and so it's got my name at the top.
Cool.
But it's a fantastic way to show that you care enough to write a note. And notes that carry so much, like there's just so much. I was looking at a book I had today. It was inscribed to me when I graduated college. And
that's cool.
I was just like, the man who gave it to me has passed away, but it brought back a lot of memories. Yeah. And it was in his very poor handwriting.
I was about to say, like, there's something super personal about like someone's handwriting. That's why signatures are such a thing. Why they're still a thing, right? Because it's unique to everybody. It's the most unique
thing. I mean, the word style. Where that comes from?
No, tell me.
Stylus. It's your handwriting.
Wow.
That's what style is.
Huh.
Yeah. Which, I mean, so there's nothing more, in some ways, more individual than your sign. Richard Worsham, his mark.
It used to be like, like however you could make a mark, right?
If you were illiterate or couldn't write. Yeah. So anyway, papyrus and parchment come along. Papyrus being made out of reeds, an Egyptian technology. Parchment is a was used up until much more recently than papyrus. Parchment is a hide that's been heavily cured and smoothed and manipulated so that you can write on it well.
Yeah.
First book that we know of was when they took a bunch of papyrus, because papyrus they would make scrolls out of, and they just keep going. And so, but it was very hard to read because you can't. I mean, you can read it, but you can only read it one way.
Right. You have to unscroll.
But you kind of just move through it. You can't go back.
Right.
And so the beauty of the codex, this is a codex, is that it has leaves. And the first one is about 80 BC.
Okay.
The Romans.
That's just so crazy to me.
Yeah. Then you have paper. Paper was originally a Chinese technology. And this is something I kind of been thinking about in reading this book. People always talk about and I also love printing. It's my family history. And my great grandfather was a printer. I've inherited a lot of his printing equipment. One of these days we should do
that would be cool.
Fire up a printing press.
That would be really cool.
Movable type. Let's talk about the printing press being the biggest revolution before the internet, right? I'm kind of thinking, the more I think about it, I think paper might be even more important.
Yeah.
Or at least the way the making paper affordable. So paper existed in the Far East for many, many, many centuries before it was discovered or imported to the West. But that really happened through the Muslim empire up until I think the 13th century.
Wow.
They finally, through Spain, because of the Moors in Spain, they captured a city that had a bunch of paper mills.
It's our paper now.
The Christian empire did. And they started figuring out how to make paper.
Yeah.
So very quickly, that technology spread, especially in the kingdoms and cities that had lots of trade.
Yeah.
Specifically the Italians, who were the masters of the universe at that period in terms of exploring and trading and developing all kinds of new technologies. Yeah. So centering in Florence in the 13th and 14th centuries, they started figuring out how to use paper, and they started figuring out the notebook.
Is this all pushed on by the papacy?
You mean like pushed? No, this is not. Actually, the church really kind of snubbed its. They were not interested in paper.
Really?
It was a newfangled, and it had connotations with the Muslims.
Oh.
So they were using parchment.
Yeah.
Parchment. All the early manuscripts are on parchment.
Right.
Now that changes, of course.
Right.
But really, the people that popularized paper and the notebook are the Florentine merchants.
Huh. And
they develop a very powerful technology, which this is just fascinating. I mean, maybe I don't know enough about history, but it really blew my mind that double entry bookkeeping.
Double entry bookkeeping.
That thing that powers the world to this day, capitalism, all those things was invented by the Florentines in around this period of time, early Renaissance. And so they were able to track profit and loss.
Wow.
In this new system that they developed. And they were also able to track changes in currency. They could convert currency. So they were dealing in hundreds of different types of currency at that period. Even obviously Italy had many different forms of money. And so they just basically, they would keep these ledgers of, and they were ricordanza. They would, for all kinds of recording, and they had multiple books. And that's what they mean when they say they balance the books, or you close the books on something. It means that, and they were kept on a yearly level, or sometimes more. Absolutely fascinating.
That's really interesting.
Meanwhile, you have this wonderful story that I wanted to talk about. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, but we'll talk about. Actually, we'll bring in. So we talked about double entry bookkeeping. I'm not a surprise. I'm not a great financier. So we'll leave it at that. But basically, I hope that isn't lost. How powerful a tool that is.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Incredible be able to record things and to be able to visualize a business on a complex level with multiple firms. Like think about the Medici banking. Banking was not possible without the notebook.
Right.
So then you have sketchbooks. And so this is more close to my heart than the written word. If you look at, I didn't bring in, I should have, my sketchbooks, and those go back to when and that's probably I've been the most consistent with is keeping sketchbooks. And I try to encourage my girls to do so too. Because there's something, if you have a piece of bond paper out of a printer or whatever, it doesn't matter if it's loose leaf.
Right.
It just gets lost.
Right.
No matter if I love that picture and I put it in my icebox or whatever, and of my daughter did when she was 3, it gets lost. It's gone. And it breaks my heart.
Right.
But if you put it in a notebook, you can collect them.
It's more substantial.
And so drawing, I mean, there's weird things about drawing. Like my family read a lot out loud, which is also, we're talking about words and very probably, but I would draw while we were being read to. My brothers would, you'd be sitting down or you have a sketchbook.
Right.
And I can still remember when I look at one of those sketches, what the story was we were reading at that point. Weird memory stuff.
Well, like it's
right.
That speaks to, the classic saying of a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Like I think that speaks to it a little bit, whereas you're able to interpret words, multiple words, and draw them into one picture.
I mean, I wasn't even drawing about the thing. I was drawing about something completely different.
Really?
Yeah. Or like oftentimes I would be doing imaginary maps. Anyway, the sketchbook, starting with, I think in this book he talks about the Renaissance artists Cimabue and Giotto, which are these early Renaissance artists that they were the first. Before that, you had all the artists were drawing like very, like you think of like a Byzantine icon.
Yeah.
They're very stylized. Yeah. They're not representing really one individual person. I mean, they are symbolically, but that person, the individual, their style is not so important.
Right.
As much as they represent.
Right.
Is important.
Yeah.
And so they can be very symbolic, very they can lack a lot of the individual detail.
Yeah, but it feels
valuable today.
It feels regal, like a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. But they start drawing from life. And what do you need to be able to do to draw from life? You got to do it a lot.
Yeah.
And so you can't do that if you're painting frescoes. I mean, you know how to paint a fresco is the plaster has to be wet.
Right.
And then you just go. You just paint it.
Good luck.
Now, obviously there are cartoons they do first so they can work off of that. But it's not this thing where you work up a design very, very carefully in advance. And so when you start looking at the sketchbooks, now I don't think we have the sketchbook of Cimabue, but if we did, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But we do have some of other artists from a little bit later. Yeah. And it shows someone who's looking at nature and then drawing it. And then they're doing it over and over again. Right. And so then they start understanding anatomy. They start understanding shade and shadow. They start understanding perspective, which is really big then. And again, it's because they can do it over and over again, and they're using these sketchbooks.
And they can even like reference their old work too, like of
that's the most important thing.
And saying like, oh, like, well, this looks better when I do this, and like I can actively compare the two of them.
Or they might have seen another artist and they sketch. Yeah. There was no way of taking an image.
They couldn't just pull out their phone and take a picture.
They can't go visit this artist and say how he did something. Right. They have to sketch it to be able to move that idea somewhere else.
That's a really interesting.
So it is a memory device. It's a mnemonic device in a very real way. Obviously, when you start thinking about ideas and recording. So anyway, you have the artists like this. Obviously, this gets taken to a new level by Leonardo da Vinci, who we do have several of his notebooks. Yeah. Absolutely incredible. And you can tell the guy is he's drawing water like over and over and over, and flying machines over. I mean, and some of it may have been sort of showing off. Some we don't really know. He wrote backwards, all this crazy stuff. But obviously he was crazy
I was going to
genius.
say, I think he's just kind of a madman.
I think he also kind of pumped that up a little bit. Maybe. Obviously incredibly intelligent, extremely driven person. But he used this medium to develop that skill. Yeah. Yeah. Both his memory and his ability to, and you think about like people like Shakespeare. We were trained in this this method of copying sections of texts. So anyway, the same thing happens with music. Then we have the commonplace book, which is a way of just saving quotes. And that's something that probably somebody like Shakespeare would have been very familiar with, like Cicero, Ovid. These were these really famous people. Then you'd biblical quotes, quotes from the Psalms, all this stuff that they would be able to kind of collect into this body of knowledge. And you got to think people didn't have a whole lot of books either. And so they would be able to collect this stuff into this
there's this
body that they could then reference at a later date. And so they're organizing, they're basically taking their brain and they're organizing it and and a lot of these, like these books have indexes. They index it so they can organize, they can go back and find that thing. So it's like an extension of the mind.
Right. There's this interesting theme of taste, right? Because what I would document in my notebook versus what you would document in your notebook are completely different at times, right? So you get a very unique perspective if you have a full, going back to like the signature thing, like this is what, like a representation of my tastes, what I like, what I think is cool, what I think is memorable, and you get to be you're able to, I mean, now looking back in history at all these people who took notes and wrote in journals, you're able to get a perspective that's almost like a first person perspective of what they thought was cool and important.
And I think the interesting thing is that not many of those journals or diaries or notebooks or sketchbooks or whatever you want to call them are written to be seen by the people.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you'll find them that say, not to be looked at until I'm dead.
Right.
Or,
I should do one of those.
Things like that. But I think for me, at least, I think that the power of the notebook is what it is, how it is an extension of your own mind.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of benefit for other people. Obviously, when we start thinking about great artists or scientists, you look at the notebooks of Einstein or something like that. There's a lot of value there, but it's really what it does, how it helps them to organize their thoughts and organize their whether it's thought or schedule or whatever. So anyway, from there, this can spread out to ship's logs, nature guides. Think about a lot of great novelists. You think about Darwin, the origin of the species is based off of notebooks that he kept.
Lots of drawings.
Drawings, etc. Travel logs, until we get to the modern idea of journaling and how it's useful.
Yeah.
And so I guess the point I'm trying to make with this is that or not the point I'm trying to make. The point is just it's interesting. The reason that it's apropos to rambling is that rambling is something we do. It's a way of transformation. That's the way I talk about it in the Ramblestream. Yeah. Self-transformation. I don't mean it. It could be described in some way as like self-improvement or something like that, like self-help books or whatever. Right. But I think it's a much larger thing that it's just how we live in a way that helps us to keep growing. Like riding a motorcycle is a way that you're constantly. I talk about the zone. You're balancing between something it involves skill. And that you're always getting better at it. Yeah. And it has something is at stake.
Right.
And so we do that we can ramble with whether it's talking about fishing or traveling or any number of other activities. The same thing is true with how we organize our mind and how we organize our schedule and how we organize our thoughts.
Yeah.
And just for me, I think that the notebook is just extremely powerful. And I haven't put a whole lot of thought. I really genuinely haven't put a whole lot of thought into why notebooking works better for me. And I understand from what I hear from other people that it works better for them than digital forms of writing.
If you had to process it and try to like parse out an idea of why, what would it be?
There's a couple of obvious points of entry. One is that when you write an E, I was talking to Neil about it. He's like, when you hit the E key on your keyboard, you can hit the E key or you can just as easily hit the R. There's no difference.
And both of those actions feel the same. When you hit the E
same,
and when you hit the R, it feels exactly the same.
Right. And so, but when you write an E, you're, how do I say this? Some people like who have dyslexia, they actually learn how to read better by forming the letter physically.
Interesting.
That actually pins the letter down in their mind. If it's like spinning or whatever happens when you have dyslexia.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said, obviously, for the tactile nature of that. And then I think also when you write something down in it with pages, that old technology that we moved from the scroll to the codex. Yeah. It's easy to find. Like I really like what is the Kindle? Amazon Kindle. They're fantastic, but they're really hard for me to read easily. Like it's not hard. I'm exaggerating.
You can read, right?
But you can read it, but it's not as easy as reading a book. Yeah. Because the book is, you're holding it, you can flip pages. I can really easily, and again, I know you can take notes in Kindles, but I can write. When we should talk about marginalia. I mean, marginalia is actually I've got a note in here. Yeah. Marginalia is the notes that one takes in the margins of a book you're reading.
Well, I mean, to get kind of personal here, like in my Bible, right? Yes. Like I've got,
that's the original marginalia.
Right. Like I've got things highlighted and I've got like notes in the margin, and I go to my phone and there are some things that are highlighted in the app or whatever, but it doesn't feel the same. There's something about having like that paper thing that like it brings a connection to whatever you're experiencing while reading or whatever you're experiencing in reading.
The other thing I think we could say is that like kind of what we were talking about with things that are well made early on, you know, like there is something about a book that it will, I mean, there's a fire, it burns, but it's a permanent thing. Whereas a collection of notes on an app on your phone is not something that you will ever. You can't hold it. You could pass it to your son, but you probably, I mean, maybe if you format it and you put it in some different format.
Right. But in that original format,
it doesn't work.
Right.
And so whereas this would be something that, whether you want to pass it on to anyone or not is a different question, but you could. Yeah. And it would be, and it's memorable. It's worth something. And just like this, you know, this is something that I'm never going to get rid of. Right. It has a value. Maybe the writing doesn't have any value. I don't know.
I mean, it has a value to you, and that's what really matters, right? Like,
so, those are 2 points of entry on that, like maybe why that works, but I'll keep thinking about it. Yeah, anyway, in the meantime, I recommend the Notebook, A History of Thinking. And I also recommend, as a rambler, there's all kinds of different logs that you want to keep. So I was talking to Neil. He's like, he keeps a log of when he goes on a motorcycle trip. He has a book that he records location, how many miles he rode. And like if you're a sailor, you know, obviously you keep a ship's log, right? And you keep where you sailed, if anything,
maintenance, all that fun stuff.
Conditions. Right. It's a way that you can go back and it makes the thing more meaningful. Right. I hiked across Spain. I did the Camino de Santiago 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago. And I did not keep any written documentation of it. I brought a film camera. Yeah. Somehow on the way from the airport to the plane, to the airport, I lost all the rolls of film. I have no record. And my friend who went along, she kept a journal, and she can dip into that at any point and remember. Like I'm like asking her, like, hey Caitlin,
what happened?
What happened? It's pathetic. I mean, I kicked myself.
I think though, there's some charm, a little bit, with experiencing something once,
certainly,
and then just having to remember the experience, right?
Well,
we're into Ramblestream after hours here.
This is Ramblestream after hours. This is where I kind of question the whole thing, which is, you know, like I think I've mentioned before when people first started reading, up until I think they say that it was like Thomas Aquinas, or maybe it was Augustine. I can't remember. I mean, there's a difference in different periods, but they say that one of the two of them was the first person who was able to read quietly without reading out loud. So when you read, you would go you'd read out loud. It was just like it was incomprehensible that you would read without saying
saying
the
the
word.
words.
And so when the people sort of, they're like looking at this guy, he's like, and they're like,
What is he doing? That's crazy.
But the same thing is true, I think, of the Italian, this ability they had to extend the mind outside of the. It's very powerful. It's like the internet.
Yeah, big time.
And we're talking about, AI. And what does AI do? It does it even more. It's not even your mind anymore. It's right.
It's not.
Literally.
It's not even. Is it someone else? I don't know. Either way,
it's a separate question.
Like it's a. There's a big trend going on in like the systems or kind of that self-help kind of sector, where they're calling like things their second brain. Like they're calling programs their second brain. And
I mean, the Notebook really is that.
It's revolving around like this ability to take every single, this is an over exaggeration, I think, but take every single human element out of decision making and your day to day, and just systemizing every single little thing.
But the Italian ledger, in some ways, it's maybe even more of a dramatic change toward that than AI.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it, like the power of that, and so where I'm going with this is, you can kind of second guess it. Right. You can kind of think like, I'm not to romanticize the Dark Ages or something like that, right? But
the likelihood that we were both peasants and would die an early death is very high.
Speak for yourself. No, I'm kidding. But I mean, with that power, we do get the birth of the nation state, this like the global economy,
right?
And I mean, you could tie it to all kinds of things,
right?
And it does, like, if you think about it in the context of like rambling, what does that mean?
Right.
Like rambling to me often means it's a scaling back. It's a focusing on your own personal agency. I'm a firm believer in this, but it does. Here's another way of saying it. With the birth of reading and writing, of writing, we gave up an oral tradition. So we've talked about Homer, all these epic poems. Those were not written down. Somebody memorized the entire Iliad and would then perform that. And then everybody their minds were much more able to remember things.
Was it that? Or every single iteration of the same story changed?
Maybe.
I wonder if.
I don't know. I think
the
Iliad is pretty magical.
I don't know how you would be able to do this, but it reminds me a lot of like dialects in language.
Yeah.
I wonder if different regions have slightly altered versions of the same story.
That's not even a question. I mean, certainly. But I mean, there are. We don't have to get into the semantics of it, but like, there's a reason that certain stories are so powerful,
right?
And that we can. They have a lot of value and meaning because they're so unique.
Yeah.
And they tell such an interesting story.
Right.
Whether it's poetry or scripture or whatever, that it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And I guess to kind of finish out what I was thinking, every time you expand your capabilities, whether it's with writing things down or you also give up something. And it's the same thing. I mean, obviously with the phone, think about like Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if this is a controversial statement or not, but I think it's pretty apparent that our memory, our what do you want to call your attention span, has dramatically changed.
Yeah.
In our lifetime.
Yeah.
With the internet and with more digital things. Just imagine the difference between the way that our mind works and the mind of someone pre-writing.
Yeah.
Or we're operating in an oral tradition.
Right.
So, I mean, it's that's a question that I think about. And I think about it's interesting. And so anytime you do, obviously this seems antique.
Yeah.
It seems
Yeah.
Luddite.
Right.
And not really. I think a lot of people do this. Like a lot of very tech people keep a notebook.
And that should be a proof enough.
Right.
Quickly. Like,
right.
Hey, there are a lot of people that do this who are
Sam Altman
huge tech
keeps a
heads.
notebook.
Right. Right. So like there's a lot of value in that.
Right. But I do think it has a lot of value.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Christopher Wright says, and a proud Luddite, I'll take hardback books, hand pressed coffee, and rambling all over technological advances.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to be said for it because again, if your goal is preserving your agency, which I think, I think that is really what I'm talking about in all this, the Rambo's Companion,
right.
Janus motorcycles,
right.
all this stuff is exercising, which is important to be preserving. You got to do it to be able to keep doing it.
Right.
Your ability to be yourself and
human
and to be able to be in control of as much of what you do as you can. Liberty. It's freedom.
Yeah.
It's freedom. So
Neil hopping in. I want to be Amish.
Hey, sometimes I do too.
There's simplicity.
There's a couple of things that I don't really want to do.
Right.
But a lot of times I'm like, man, people are really happy.
Yeah, there's a simplicity to it for sure. But I think the grass is always greener. The option for me, the choice is to live a particular way is enough for me to not.
I have wondered sometimes, like, could you kind of be Amish? We have this infrastructure here, and we could kind of live like Amish, but not be. Like, you could have like I was thinking maybe like a Aga cream buggy with gold pinstripe.
There's definitely like a slang version
LED
for that.
headlight?
I'm sure that the Amish have about us that I'm just unaware of, and it's probably in Dutch.
I think they just call us English.
Maybe that too. I don't know.
All right. Well, that's talking about Amish. That's a good way to round it out. It's been another very rambling.
Yes.
We've got a couple of people that managed to hang on to
Yes, we've got a few people. We do have a couple announcements.
Oh, yeah.
though.
We should do this at the beginning.
We should do this either at the beginning or in the middle. I have to make a mental note of placing
Don't make a mental
it
one.
well.
Write it down.
I'll forget it. If it's anything like a grocery store list, I'll definitely forget it. What you got news about something, a special project that you're doing, Richard, by chance?
Yes.
I'm asking, looking at the list of announcements.
Yes. The first up, we've talked about it, but
yeah,
we got a chopper coming along. We're going to build its own weld table just for special projects. We're working on that. It's all in our spare time. But I got tires in. They're sitting right behind me. We're going to start chopping up a Halcyon 450 frame soon.
Nice.
Jansen, I think, is going to help maybe. Document the whole process.
Yeah, I'll be here every waking moment I can be.
Great. That continues to come along. We got an event that I'm always really excited about. Distinguished Gentleman's Ride happens every year. I think it's been going on for like 15 years or something like that. We've raised a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of dollars, thanks to y'all's generosity. And we will be, once again, participating in the DGR, or Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's May 18th this year. We're still working at our route. There, Ray Lazat, I don't know if he's in the chat at all. He often is, has suggested a different route up into southern Michigan.
Oh,
to a vintage motorcycle show.
That'd be really cool.
And it also involves a covered bridge. So Centerville, maybe. We'll see. We'll be making, anyway, look for posts. I'll be spamming you all with requests for donations. You all can help.
We should do a donation stream.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
We can have challenges, and when we get to specific numbers, we have to shave each other's head or something.
Okay.
Richard loves that
anyway,
idea.
DGR is coming up. We're really excited about it, and it's an opportunity for you all to help support a really great cause.
Yeah.
Men's mental health. Okay. Last off, Danielle has asked me to tell you all that we are offering a very limited time. I forgot to bring in my jacket, but Vanson, you may have seen videos with me riding. I have a beautiful wax canvas Vanson, the amazing company in New England that makes motorcycle gear. They're opening up for a limited run of Janus canvas jackets.
Oh, cool.
And they take a long time to make. They are telling us that they're going to be ready in the fall.
Wow.
If you order now, handmade, beautiful jackets.
Awesome.
Call or email Danielle for more. So just call the shop or email us, and we will help you out. Last but not least, and I'm going to just, you know what? We're going to save this one for next week because I want to really focus on it.
Yeah.
Last of all, we're still doing trade-ins. We're trade-ins. If you have a bike, you're not it's gathering dust, as we say. Give us a call. We may be able to turn that dusty gathering bike into a rambling Janus motorcycle. We're doing free shipping until the end of the month, and we have 2 used bikes available right now at a reduced price.
All that's on our website.
All on our website.
janusmotorcycles.com. You can go there. It's been a great stream. Been a great ramble.
How late are we?
We are
really late.
20 whole minutes over.
All right. Well, we got a dedicated crowd still on.
Yep.
Thank you all for participating in another Ramblestream, and we will be back next week for Ramblestream number